Hello, I'm your host, Effie Vilarino, and today I'm delighted to have with me my co-author, Harry Abburi. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you, Effie. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to be with you. We have co-authored the chapter on thinking like an AI native in the recently published book of Wiley, Fast Future Blur, discovering transformative interconnections that are shaping our future. You, Harry, are really a specialist in disruptive agility, and you bring a very industry-wide or cross-industry, if you like, expertise and view. Of course, I'm more focused on financial services, and I want to start the discussion by setting the scene and saying we developed this framework really to help companies cross industries to start their journey of transformation into AI native, but really to start their journey in order to be able to prepare and compete with the AI native disruptors that are coming, right?
Absolutely. I think our intention was to help companies reimagine themselves as they compete with the new startups, if you may. So if a company were to start itself up in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of the base assumptions on technology and how it is used on the tech stack, uh, right now it is legacy for transformation. That legacy simply will not exist for this company. So they're at a significant advantage while the existing companies are in a transformation process. So the chapter that we co-authored was to both help existing companies reimagine themselves, but also be a guide for the new companies coming up to think about how should they approach this, what I would call as a lateral competency technology, because it exists everywhere. It's not pushed from a single central point. It is not like a CRM, single system of record. This will exist and multiply and learn as it goes. So I think that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, and as we all agree, it is a journey going, even if you're a digitally native company, it's a journey towards an intelligent company, a really AI native company. And in the case of financial services, this journey is going to also include big trends like open finance and digital wallets. It's not happening in isolation. And this is a very important. Before we go into the juice of our discussion, which is to just cover some learnings from journeys over the past year, can you please briefly outline what the framework is all about?
Sure. So in the chapter that you and I co-authored, Effie, as we approached, we transitioned through almost the last 50, 60 years of technology, if you may. So we looked at the traditional companies that were digitizing. We looked at digital natives that were struggling to go cloud first with apps like digital wallets and everything else. And then we looked at what do AI native companies do? What does it mean? So in this process, the way we described our framework was we described the framework through 5 dimensions. And before I get to the dimensions, we articulated those 5 dimensions across 3 key areas of running a business, right? One is the customers, obviously, the enterprise itself, the internal view of the enterprise, how processes work, how data moves, etc. And then the ecosystem, because every company operates in an ecosystem: suppliers, vendors, partners, third party, product offerings, etc. So across these three, customer, enterprise, and ecosystem, we identified what we felt were the 5 key dimensions on how to benefit from this technology. But again, it's not a technology point of view. It is an enterprise economic value creation point of view. That's where the 5 dimensions are different. So very quickly, as a rundown of the 5 dimensions, the first one is discovery. The easiest example I give everybody is Google, which gives you the summary on top, which is an AI generated summary instead of all the results. Design, we have seen number of text to voice, text to images, text to video kind of apps, all kinds of creatives that we have seen. Dexterity, this is an interesting one. how do you actually redesign processes in a company that makes your company pivot faster when there is change? Deduction, which is all about business intelligence, narrowing down choices, being able to generate really smart future opportunities, and decision. How do leaders in a company make those decisions based on what they see? So discovery, design, dexterity, deduction, and decision. These are the 5 dimensions across customer, enterprise, and ecosystem.
Brilliant. And let's discuss a recent example that I've highlighted. And the reason I want to discuss it is not to critique, but it is a lesson. And I'm referring to Klarna, our beloved fintech. Some look at Klarna as a shopping marketplace. No matter how you look at it, it's definitely a digital native innovator. And its innovation has really impacted the whole space in financial services, undoubtedly. And they have been on a campaign, if you want, over the past 6 months, since last September, about the ways that they are deploying AI, their intention to be a guinea pig of OpenAI. Their CEO was saying that they're going to have their workforce within 2025, really big statements. And even statements like AI can do all our jobs, even the CEO's job. And recently, around Valentine's Day, the CEO came out and sort of twisted the narrative and said, you know what? Humans are invaluable. And, what is the lesson here? The lesson is that if you're rushing to sort of replace customer service, if you're rushing with the mindset that cost cutting with AI is, the way the market is going to value you, then you've forgotten about customer centricity. And I think that is a big lesson about how to apply AI, and that it's very nuanced. And I want to hear your opinion and thoughts, because you have a much broader view beyond, the financial industry. What are your reaction to this?
I think it is safe to say now, having seen across industries, CEOs are at a loss to respond comprehensively, cohesively to what their AI adoption strategy is. Therefore, what happens in absence of that is that they hype up the brand to drive either valuation or quarterly calls to survive what I call as the analyst questioning, and they revert back to a sense of realism maybe in a quarter or 2. Having said that, there are many companies that have actually got it right. Walmart is one of them. We've written their example in the book. IKEA has done parts of it, which is terrific. We have written that in the book as well as a case study. But I think the larger question is, if you're using AI merely to promote the benefits of productivity, I would assume that these CEOs are missing the point completely. The mindset shift is from doing more for less is doing different for less. And let me give you an example of that. The example is Lemonade, which has a pet insurance. Obviously, it is an insurance, new insurance company, US-based. It's fantastic digital interface even before AI came in. It's got some of the most intuitive user experiences, whether you have a home insurance, auto insurance, or a pet insurance. And they didn't need AI to be customer-centric, of course. Now the question is, if you apply AI to a Lemonade kind of a business, then the risk portfolio should be well managed. They should have better risk mitigation strategies. They should have better pricing game plan at a portfolio level across, bundling of products of insurance that they offer. So therefore, the value goes from discovery back to deduction and decision. So this productivity game, I will also filter it through what I call as an initial onset of business process servicing BPO industry in early 1990s to late 1990s, When you outsource a process, in the year that you're outsourcing the process, maybe you see a 50% drop in cost because you converted headcount into a per transaction cost, given it to a service center in India to make the calls or receive the customer service calls. And then year one that you outsourced it, your P&L looks great because you reduced cost. But guess what? Come January or whichever is the first month of the budget year, that is history. You're back again at the productivity game. You cannot undercut yourself to greatness as an enterprise. Great productivity does not replace the need for outstanding strategy. And that entire point seems to be missing in this AI debate because no matter what your AI application is to drive productivity, those are short-term gains because sooner or later, there's only so much you can cut. That's number one. So therefore, the question is, using AI, what kind of deductions have you driven on your business, on customers and ecosystem that make you better, offer different, and therefore disrupt the marketplace?
And differentiate in a way that is sustainable, meaning, that it can't be just copied by anyone.
Exactly. And to the copy factor as well, what happens is that all of these ideas are terrific in terms of enterprises wanting to do something. But as we have seen, enterprises that can actually get it done create value. The reason why Apple creates $3 trillion of valuation is because they can get it done. So they're able to manage their supply chains. Their products are world class. They work. The software works. Yes, you may debate saying, are they as innovative as they were in the past? That's a different discussion. But ultimately, even with AI, execution is a very people-centric dimension of business.
Yeah, clearly I'm seeing across the board that customer centricity has been put aside in most cases, and the focus has been simply on efficiencies, as you very clearly said, doing more for less. And that is a very myopic approach and view of using these tools. And I guess it's not very different than what probably happened 20 years ago when the digital cloud and mobile tech cycle started, and everybody was trying to experiment with digital transformation, and just using digital tools here and there can't really create sustainable value. Plus, we are in a phase where these technologies are evolving, so there's a lot of moving parts that are making it extremely difficult for enterprises to focus.
Absolutely. We are in the very start of the curve of transformation of AI. And what is interesting is with all the companies that we speak to as part of our work, it is very easy to create hundreds of use cases across functions. And they don't know how to transition from that to an enterprise-wide view of a cohesive adoption of this technology to benefit either the customer, enterprise, or ecosystem. So what we've seen is that we end up having these companies create lots of use cases as pilots, many of them on paper, but in order for them to stitch and speak together, the fragmentation of the enterprise still exists. You have to fundamentally redesign your enterprise to remove that level of fragmentation, leadership level, strategy level, data level, team level for this entire technology to work the way it should, right? So therefore, the block comes from use cases to really an enterprise-wide adoption.
Yes, because at the end of the day, if you think of it, intelligence cannot exist in one part of the organization or the ecosystem, because it's really not going to be an intelligent business if it's only confined in one area. And I guess it's a question of recognizing that, and one can start the journey from some part of the areas that we mentioned, the customer, the enterprise, and the ecosystem, but always with the mindset that the journey is to interconnect in intelligent ways all these dimensions together.
Absolutely. The way I would describe it is intelligence is something that drives action and that creates value. Otherwise, it is just information. when you confuse information with intelligence, then what happens is companies spend a lot of time collecting information, segmenting them, assimilating them in a manner that don't drive cohesive decisions that cuts across business verticals, cuts across functions, cuts across product portfolios, customer segments, etc. So, and I call it moving intelligence. In fact, this morning, my new article would come out as well on Substack and LinkedIn, where I defined what moving intelligence is. The value of this kind of technology is for enterprises to move intelligence at the speed of the idea to benefit either the customer, enterprise, or ecosystem. If they can't do it, they're just stuck with information as we have been in a digital era. Because if people have forgotten, there was a term called big data that was created out of the digital era, which basically meant lots of data in a fragmented environment.
And actually, one of the things that we are seeing right now, even with digital natives, is that different parts of the business, like the marketing department, might have a different agenda in terms of digitalization or adopting AI processes than the customer service department or the product design department or the finance department. This is the reality that needs to change in order to start the journey really to an AI native business.
You're correct, Effie. The other way I would describe what you're explaining is that the reason why those nuances tend to be different in functions is because they're focused on application layer, which is use cases. A marketing function wants to automate or make intelligence the process of buying ads on platforms, right? The ad buying process. A human resources function wants to optimize, headcount deployment to projects in an IT project-based company with minimum bench staff sitting idle, right? So a finance team may want to minimize the gap between payables and receivables to have the best working capital equation that you can ever imagine. Those are the application side of it. But in order for the application side of it to work, the fundamental nuances of what you want to accomplish is core to an enterprise. Those don't get differentiated whether it's HR, marketing, or finance. Deduction is a core to running the business. Decision is a core to running the business, right? So discovery of data is core to running the business, whether it's a customer or an ecosystem vendor. So if the fundamentals are missing, no amount of applications can stitch the environment together, because then they tend to be, again, you're creating an intelligent application, again, in a functional, fragmented ecosystem, if you may, right? So that's the way I would describe what you're explaining.
I think that that's a brilliant way to close our discussion and leave our listeners with these thoughts around you can't have fragmented intelligence and the mindset shift that is needed to start this journey towards preparing to compete with the AI native disruptors that are not yet born, but are shortly coming.
Thank you, Effie. Appreciate the discussion.
Thank you, Harry.